Thank you all for allowing me to speak on the incident involving Sector 49281 on the fourth planet from the star. As you have all most likely read already from the reports, we discovered this planet on our reach out for further colonization. However, we found other colonists had already tried to take this planet. As no one takes any land from us, it was our doctrine to simply take over this area and destroy these colonists along with their equipment, steal whatever they have, and of course, take the planet. So that is what we did. Dropping out of FTL almost on top of their single ship, we fired into it before they even had time to realize what had just happened. As we watched the ship plummet down through the atmosphere, we sent our own ships to land next to the colonists. What we did not realize is this was a military operation. They had realized that their ship had been shot out of orbit and had already begun to arm themselves. We had not realized that they would be using any type of projectile weapons, as that is not common throughout the galactic community as a whole. And as we began to face off against these personnel, we realized that we were much, much larger than they were. With the exception of their outer shell, which they call armor, it was very easy for our claws to rip into these personnel. We would also see how they would fight by closing one of their appendages and striking out at one of us. However, they could not deal enough force to cause serious damage. It did, in fact, hurt a lot. Many of my soldiers ended up on the ground in severe pain if the humans ended up striking in the right place. It was not long for humans, as we found out what they were called, to realize that if they struck in certain parts of our body with precision, which was incredible precision, it was enough to stun one of us, long enough for them to pull out one of their primitive projectile weapons and end one of our people. So it was decided that we would quit any subtle tactics and immediately just charge in and use our superior skill, strength, and speed to take them out. We found out very quickly that their skill of warfare was probably equal to ours. Yes, I know, council members, I understand that no one can match our skill, but it is to be noted that they showed extreme discipline. They held their line as best they could, and it wasn't long before their primitive weapons simply ran out of ammunition. And they began to use them as clubs. We didn't even think that was a thought in their minds. Members of the council, it should be noted that showing this type of ingenuity, along with the sheer aggression that they showed, should bring some level of respect. Even though they are not our species, they have shown that they are more than willing to fight to the end, and we do respect that. Now, to continue, fellow council members, I will let you know that once we actually got close to their facility, it was pretty obvious that there was some sort of biological trap set. Only a few of my men found it. They bumped into it. It seemed to be some sort of leftover sewage. We have difficulty finding out exactly what it was. However, there were several of these small trenches, not very wide, about 2 paws length wide and approximately 5 paws length, and maybe about 1 paw deep. Each of them partially filled with some sort of biological fluid and then covered with the local terra firma and then filled again with other biological waste. We did not know. Several of our people did trip in this and did get it all over them. However, this was only the beginning of our issues. Though we had lost several of our people in the assault due to the projectile weapons, it was not long before we were able to run fast and jump over their primitive fence lines and land on top of them. They did come out with a primitive bladed weapon or some sort of handheld weapon and did try to face us. However, once we were that close, our claws simply ripped through their protective coating and into their small, squishy bodies. And we found out that their blood is a strange red color. Yes, council members, if you will look at Appendix 4L, you will find that their blood is red. Actually, the humans call it a crimson or blood red. Yeah, very inventive. Yes, I know, council member. Please, may I continue? Thank you. Please do not ask any other questions until I get all this out, as I do believe I will answer all said questions. That being said, we found out later that the blood was not very... I'm going to cut the subtle tactics, my fellow council members, and let you know that the blood itself was mixed with iron and several other parasites that we did not see. These microscopic parasites would not come into play until much later. Many of my soldiers not only used their claws, but their fangs as well to rip into these humans. The humans, even though ripped into, continued to flail around with any type of appendage, and the only way to stop them was to either rip their head clean off or to remove all their limbs. Doing either of these would permanently delete each of these human soldiers. However, it seemed that each one that we had taken down, another one or two would become enraged and start fighting even harder. As you can see in the video marked L21, you will see one of the videos of several of these humans coming after one of my soldiers. And even though he's able to swat away all but one, this one is enraged so much from the killing of what we believe was its mate that it was able to actually take down L21 with its own hands, no weapons. It actually took the soldier down and proceeded to shove its appendages, its digits, into L21's neck and rip them out. However, this was at the cost of at least 2 of its own digits. However, it did not seem to care, as it continued to beat on the corpse until another one of our soldiers came and ended that other human. It should be noted that right after that is the major incident that we found, and you will find that under M52. Please review this, and I do recommend that if you do not have a strong stomach or a weak constitution, you should not be looking into this. As we found out, as we would have trouble with the slashing of them with our claws, as it would get caught up many times in their armor, we would simply ball up our forward appendage and strike them. One of the best ways to strike them was to strike them in the head, but being as nimble as they were, we would have to aim lower, many times either striking in the chest or the abdomen. The best strike we found was to get up in the lower abdomen and strike raising towards the sky. This was enough to actually raise most humans off the ground. However, if they were not wearing a face covering, they would immediately launch a type of biological weapon at us. As you can see from the video in there, many of our own fell to this. The burning that was there was simply enough that they would writhe on the ground in pain and then thrash around for several minutes as the acid seemed to burn through them. Unfortunately, no one survived this, as the acid would burn all the way into their brain, melting their skull. This happened several other times, and the humans seemed to notice this, as they would try as much as they could to evacuate this area of their bodies and use it as a weapon. However, the battle did not last much longer, and when it was over, we believed that as long as we did not come in contact with this acidic nature fluid, we would simply be able to take over the area. However, within another 5 hours, many of the men became deathly ill. It became so bad that even as we tried to get them back to the ship, those inside the ship became ill. It is only by chance that I was in the bridge, and the bridge was sealed off, and we actually had to eject the command section so that we could get away, was the only reason we did not fall prey to what had happened. After sending our scientists there, you can look under Appendix A, B, C, and D and read all their reports. However, to summarize is this. The bioweapons that were left were full of a type of bacteria, a bacteria that we found inside the human's own digestive system. If we were to rip open their abdomen, the same fluid would also begin to show itself on the ground and on the soldier who cut them open. However, any higher in the digestive system, and the human would evacuate this area onto the soldier itself. The acid that was in there was extremely potent, as stated before. Down lower in the digestive system, that acid would actually burn through in a matter of moments. We have several who lost their claws permanently to this. However, what was the absolute worst was that crimson blood, as you will find in Appendix D. The blood is full of several hundred different pathogens, parasites, viruses, bacteria, and a whole host of dangers itself. Due to this, I recommend to the Council to put a permanent quarantine on the human species. Do not even be in the same room with them. Do not even allow them on your ship. It does not appear that they are a hostile species. However, we do not need to be infected, as the loss rate for anyone infected by human blood or internal fluids is 100%. It should be noted now that humans are a walking biohazard.